Hey guys, welcome back. Today I am very excited because I finally, after years and years of searching, found the infamous comics once again. I had them on my old PC and I lost them during a file transfer, and it made me really sad because I wanted to read them again, but I found them today, stumbled upon them by complete accident online. I saved them again, they're on my PC, and I can read them in their entirety. I read it this morning and I found some interesting things that could link together plot holes found in Second Son. That's what today's video is going to be about. I'm going to show you these pieces from the comic and explain how they relate to Second Son. So this is the 5th page of the comic, and up at the top left corner we can see that it reads Stampton Bridge, Empire City, the present, or present day. This is taking place after Kessler's defeat at the end of the first game. Now if we go back a couple of pages, you can see up here at the top left, Historic District, Empire City, 1 month ago. This page is showing us the initial ray sphere blast that, as we all know, started it all. This happened 1 month before the end of the game, which tells us that the events of Infamous 1 took roughly about 1 month. Whereas Second Son took about 2 weeks. No wonder it's so short. If we go back to the very first page, we can see at the top left it reads, First Son's Research Facility, Empire City, 4 months ago. That means that these events we're looking at right now take place 4 months before the end of the game and 3 months before Cole gets his powers. In this scene, we learn quite a few things. The first most noticeable thing we can see is that Kessler is working with Moya. This should come as quite a shock to those who played the first game, as we had no idea that these two were even in cahoots at all. Of course, Kessler's true plot is revealed somewhere later down the road in the comics. I'm not going to reveal that or talk about that in this video, but if you do want to see a comic book storyline video on my channel, please request it down in the comments. I'd be glad to do it sometime. The second thing we can see is that Kessler is explaining to Moya how the ray sphere works. You can see down in the bottom frame, Kessler says, the ray sphere works on a simple principle. It transfers neuro-electric energy from non-conduits to conduits. Once enough neuro-electric energy is accumulated within the conduit, their latent superhuman abilities are activated. And then Moya makes a quick mention that everyone around them is killed in the process. Now I'm going to dodge off course just a little bit for a second. I believe that this explanation Kessler gave us can actually show us how Delsin activated his powers in Second Son. We never got a real explanation because all he did was just touch Hank's hand and boom, he got powers. It seemed kind of weak, but if we would have just read the comics in the first place, we wouldn't be so confused about it. Allow me to explain. I believe there are 2 ways that conduits can actually have their powers activated. The first way, as Kessler explained, involves a group of people having their bioelectricity or neuroelectricity drained out of them and concentrated into one person who is a conduit. Once enough neuroelectricity has built up inside of the conduit, their powers are activated. This is usually done through the use of the ray sphere. The reason that all the other people die is because we are electric beings. We use electricity to allow our nervous system to function. It helps our brain function properly. It even controls our heart rate. We have a small amount of bioelectricity inside of us that keeps us functioning properly. As you can imagine, if that electricity is drained from someone, they will die, or at the very least, go brain dead. The second way, which I have come up with after reading the comics and studying Delsin's power acquisition, has to be the transfer of neuroelectricity between 2 conduits. What I mean specifically is, take a conduit like Hank. He already has his powers. He already has all that neuroelectricity built up inside of him. Take a conduit positive, like Delsin. By the way, in case you don't know, a conduit positive is a conduit who doesn't have their powers activated yet. So when a conduit positive, like Delsin, comes into contact with a conduit like Hank, the neuroelectricity from the conduit is then transferred into the conduit positive. Once enough neuroelectricity has built up inside the conduit positive to activate their powers, the transfer process stops. The reason that the conduit doesn't die is because a conduit like Hank has more neuroelectricity than a normal human does. This allows enough electricity to be transferred into the conduit positive to activate their powers, but not all of it is drained, thus not killing the conduit. This is why they only pass out for a few minutes during their power transfer, only to wake up again thanks to their fast healing abilities. But anyway, back to the comic. In these next few pages, we can see Kessler conversing with Moya. He has a theory, and he wonders what happens when an activated conduit is further exposed to the ray sphere. Will they die? Lose their powers? Kessler, of course, needed a test subject, so he took one of his security guards at the facility, David Warner, and used him as a human guinea pig. David has been exposed to the ray sphere 11 times as of this current scene that you're looking at right now. I like this scene in particular because it does a very good job at depicting just how dark and gritty the original Infamous was. This is what I want to see make a comeback in future Infamous games. I don't want any more of this pretty boy, teenage rebel, graffiti artist crap. I want to see some creepy, dark, mysterious conspiracy shit. On the next page, Kessler reveals that each additional exposure to the ray sphere unlocks a new ability. It doesn't replace any, it adds to them. Moya then questions that one person can wield multiple powers at the same time. Kessler confirms this simply by saying yes. Now this scene can be a little hard to break down because it could mean a couple different things. The first possibility is when Kessler says each additional exposure unlocks a new ability. This could mean that each exposure to the ray sphere unlocks a new ability for one power set. Kind of like in Infamous 2, how you could get variations of the lightning bolt or the rocket, or how you could acquire new powers like the kinetic pulse. On the other hand, it could mean that each exposure to the ray sphere unlocks a new power set entirely for that conduit, judging by how Moya says one person can wield multiple powers at a time. If that's true, that means that Delsin is literally a walking, living version of this experiment. He is the ray sphere and the conduit put into one person, essentially. Think about it. Each time he comes into contact with another conduit, he gains their ability. It's like he's exposing himself to the ray sphere and continuously adding new abilities to himself. With each additional exposure, he unlocks a new ability. This also explains why Augustine wanted Delsin so damn bad. If you remember Cole's Legacy, we collected an audio log which has Augustine revealing that shortly after the DUP was funded, after the events of Infamous 2, she went to Numeray and collected all of Dr. Wolf's notes.
Report by Augustine. While the inciting incident that supposedly claimed the lives of all the conduits was, in fact, a lie, it was not one created by the DUP. Conduits did live through Cole's gift, myself included. Instead, we used the comm to build, learn, and prepare. We got better at early detection and collection. Curtain case facilities were upgraded, and we built an army. The events here in Seattle will ensure the DUP will be funded for the foreseeable future. This will allow me to expand our facilities abroad. We have made excellent headway on establishing a permanent science facility in Australia. The work we've already done there using Dr. Sebastian Wolf's notes on the conduit is, well, awe-inspiring. Even to me.
Seeing as how Dr. Wolf worked very closely with Kessler on the ray sphere project, it's highly likely that these notes from the experiments were included in the paperwork that Augustine recovered from Numeray. Augustine would then have obviously spent hours, days, probably even months studying and researching these notes. That means that Augustine most definitely knows about the events of Infamous 1, the events of the comics, and probably even some of Infamous 2. And I'm not just talking about the upfront stuff that happened during the game. I'm talking about all the behind-the-scenes stuff as well. All of the tests and the experiments, all of Kessler's notes, Dr. Wolf's notes, everything that the players still don't even know, stuff that I still don't even know, Augustine probably knows about. That's how the DUP was able to build the drones and scanning stations using blast shards. That's how they engineer the core relays using blast cores, all from the information gathered in Dr. Wolf's notes. But if Augustine knew about these experiments, it must have blew her mind when she saw Delsin wielding multiple powers at once, to have the ability to capture a naturally occurring conduit with the power to do what Kessler recreated in this laboratory. Imagine what Augustine could do with Delsin. She wouldn't have to recreate the ray sphere or perform cruel experiments like the ones we see here right now. She could use Delsin as a platform to create an army of super soldiers capable of wielding any power they wanted. An army of people like that would be unstoppable, and that's a pretty scary thought. I think Augustine wanted to capture Delsin as a last attempt to create the ultimate conduit army and finally be able to go after the military with full force, as I stated in my next chapter video. It's just crazy for me to think about how Second Son came out 2 years ago and we're still uncovering new information that helps us better understand the backstory of the series, the lore, and the characters and how they all fit together into one universe. Augustine is the one character who bridges the gap between Infamous 2 and Second Son. Delsin is incredible. He is, like I said earlier, a living, naturally occurring version of what Kessler was trying to recreate in this lab. He is quite possibly the most powerful conduit we have ever seen. Can you imagine what he would do with his powers if he actually knew how powerful he was? Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. I am still trying to wrap my head around all the information I discovered today. It feels like somebody took my scalp off, took a blender, stuck it in my brain, and then put it on high for like 10 minutes straight. It's just so cool to think about the backstory and the lore to these games, and I love discovering new information like this all the time, especially when it comes to a universe that I love so dearly. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed, share this video with all your friends as always, and don't forget to check out my Patreon. I have redesigned the page, there's some new rewards. Go over there, tell me what you think. Do you like the rewards? Do you think they're too expensive? Give me feedback on that. That page is for you guys, the fans, and you should be happy with what you're paying for. Thank you all again so much for watching this video, and I'll catch you later.